is a structure that will still be standing when your great-great-grandchildren are old. I have been talking for a while now about what this material is and why it matters, but I want to spend some time on the history of how the knowledge survived at all, because it is a story of quiet determination that deserves to be remembered. When the Amish and Mennonite communities left Europe in the 1720s and 1730s, they were fleeing persecution that had been going on for nearly 2 centuries. The Anabaptist movement had emerged in the 1520s during the Protestant Reformation, and its followers had been executed by the thousands for their refusal to baptize infants and their insistence on separation from the state. By the time they reached Pennsylvania under the protection of William Penn, they had learned that survival depended on self-sufficiency, on skills that did not require the cooperation of outside authorities, and on knowledge that could be carried in the head and passed down without written records. Their building techniques were part of this survival kit, a community that could build its own houses, its own barns, its own mills, and its own meeting houses without any dependence on outside suppliers was a community that could not be starved out or pressured into compliance. The materials had to be things that could be gathered locally, that did not require money to acquire, and that did not leave a paper trail. Ash from your own fire, clay from your own creek, whey from your own dairy, nothing purchased, nothing recorded, nothing that any tax collector or hostile authority could interfere with. This is why the knowledge survived through centuries of pressure that erased so many other traditional crafts. It was baked into the theology of self-reliance and separation from the world. When the Amish elders taught their sons how to build, they were not just teaching a skill, they were teaching a form of freedom that could not be taken away by any government or corporation. And that is exactly why the industrial economy has worked so hard, whether by design or by natural competition, to make this knowledge inaccessible to the rest of us. Think about the implications for a moment. A man who knows how to build his own shelter from materials he can gather on his own land is a man who cannot be made desperate by a housing market. A man who knows how to store his own food in a cellar he built himself is a man who cannot be starved into submission by a supply chain failure. A man who has a workshop with 2-foot-thick walls that keeps a steady temperature year-round is a man who does not need to pay for climate control or worry about the price of natural gas. Each of these small independences adds up to something that the modern economy finds threatening, because the modern economy depends on your continued dependence. I do not want to sound conspiratorial, because I do not think there is a single cabal of villains sitting in a room deciding to hide this information from you. What I think is that there is a general drift, a slow and continuous pressure that pushes society towards centralization and consumption and away from independence and skill. The pressure comes from thousands of individual companies making rational decisions to promote their products. It comes from regulators making rational decisions to require certification and testing. It comes from banks making rational decisions to lend on properties that meet standard construction codes. Nobody in any of these positions is trying to hide the ash clay whey formula from you. They are just making decisions that, taken together, mean that nobody ever mentions it, nobody ever teaches it, and nobody ever imagines that it might be worth reviving. The result is the same as if there had been a deliberate conspiracy. The knowledge is gone from mainstream awareness. It survives only in isolated communities and in the pages of specialty academic journals. And you, sitting in your house that you technically own, but that the bank actually controls, paying property taxes that the county sets, subject to building codes that require you to use approved materials from approved suppliers, are exactly where the drift has placed you. Which is to say, dependent in ways your great-great-grandfather would have found unrecognizable. Recovering this knowledge is not just a matter of learning a recipe, it is a matter of learning a way of thinking about the world that says the answer to a problem might not be in a store, it might be under your feet. It might be in your fireplace, it might be sitting in your barn as a byproduct of some other activity you already do. The old builders looked at the world and saw resources everywhere. We have been trained to look at the world and see nothing until we can find a price tag on it. When you mix your first batch of the traditional mortar, when you feel the smooth, cool weight of it in your hands, when you smell the faint tang of the fermented whey and the mineral earthiness of the clay, You are not just making a building material, you are re-establishing a connection to a way of life that valued independence, patience, and quality over speed, convenience, and disposability. That is worth something, even if you never build a wall with it. That is worth something, even if you just do it once, to prove to yourself that you can. I want to close this section by returning to the specific technique for those of you who are ready to actually try it. The proportions I mentioned earlier were general, but let me give you the precise ratios that Amos Stoltzfus taught me, and that his grandfather had used on the spring house and the root cellar and the workshop that are still standing on that farm in Intercourse. For a workable batch that will fill about 1 cubic foot when cured, you need approximately 14 pounds of aged wood ash, sifted through a window screen to remove chunks of charcoal and any unburnt material. You need approximately 22 pounds of screened clay, ideally from a subsoil layer at least 3 feet below the surface, where organic matter is minimal. You need approximately 3 quarts of properly fermented whey, and you need approximately 1 quart of clean water, though the exact water content will vary depending on the moisture in your clay. Mix the ash and clay dry first in a wheelbarrow or a mortar box, turning them over and over with a shovel until the color is completely uniform. This dry mixing is critical. If there are pockets of pure ash or pure clay in the final mixture, they will cure differently and create weak spots. Take your time, turn it at least 20 times. The finished dry mixture should look like fine gray-brown powder with no streaks or patches. Then add the whey slowly, mixing continuously. The material will darken and become plastic. Add water only as needed to reach the consistency of thick peanut butter. If it is too wet, it will slump when you place it. If it is too dry, it will not bond properly to itself or to the stones or bricks you are laying with it. The correct consistency holds its shape when you form it into a ball but yields easily to pressure from your thumb. Place the mixture as soon as it is mixed. Do not let it sit for more than 20 or 30 minutes, because the chemical reactions begin as soon as the whey contacts the ash, and if you wait too long, the material will start to set in your bucket instead of in your wall. Work in small batches. Do not try to mix up a whole day's worth at once. After placement, the wall needs to cure slowly. Cover it with damp burlap or old sheets, and keep it out of direct sun and away from strong wind for the first 2 weeks. The slower the cure, the stronger the final material. If you let it dry too fast, it will crack. If you let it cure in a controlled, moist environment for a month or more, it will reach strengths that will astonish you. After the initial 2 weeks, you can remove the coverings but keep the wall shaded and misted lightly for another 2 weeks. Full cure takes about 90 days, but you can gently load the wall after about 30 days. That is the method. That is the knowledge. That is what was taken from your family and what you now have back. Use it well. Teach it to your children. Build something that will outlast you and outlast your grandchildren, and stand as a quiet monument to the fact that you refuse to forget.